so today I'm going to make a ring for myself out of Amboyna burl, and I'm also going to be inlaying it with crushed opal from the opal dealer. This particular color is Space Titanium. I get it fine ground or crushed because it works great for the rings. It's kind of a turquoise bluish color, almost greenish in the light a little bit, from what I can tell. I've never used this particular color before, so I'm interested to see what it comes out to be. The Amboyna is going to be pretty red once it's finished, so I figure, you know, it'd be kind of a neat color combination. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to set the crushed opal to the side because I don't need that yet. What I'm going to do is I've got my blank and I've got a little piece of 1/4 inch MDF. I'm just going to put it here in the chuck with the MDF in the back to keep it flat, and the blank up front, and I'm just going to tighten it down. I've already got my my Forstner bit mounted up in my tailstock. I'm using a 20mm Forstner bit for this size 9 ring. I'll still need to find the correct size once I get going, but you'll see. I just slow my lathe way down, and then I'm gonna drill it out. Alright, so today I'm going to make a ring for myself out of Amboyna burl, and I'm also going to be inlaying it with crushed opal from the opal dealer. This particular color is Space Titanium. I get it fine ground or crushed because it works great for the rings. It's kind of a turquoise bluish color, almost greenish in the light a little bit, from what I can tell. I've never used this particular color before, so I'm interested to see what it comes out to be. The Amboyna is going to be pretty red once it's finished, so I figure, you know, it'd be kind of a neat color combination. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to set the crushed opal to the side because I don't need that yet. What I'm going to do is I've got my blank and I've got a little piece of 1/4 inch MDF. I'm just going to put it here in the chuck with the MDF in the back to keep it flat, and the blank up front, and I'm just going to tighten it down. I've already got my my Forstner bit mounted up in my tailstock. I'm using a 20mm Forstner bit for this size 9 ring. I'll still need to find the correct size once I get going, but you'll see. I just slow my lathe way down, and then I'm gonna drill it out. Just taking it easy. Should be getting close. Yep, sounds like it broke through. So I'm going to turn it off and check. Yep, Yep, sure did. Alright, we're down to the MDF now. So now I'm going to get rid of the tailstock, and I'm going to get my square carbide cutter. So I'm going to adjust how this looks real quick. Alright, so I've got my hole drilled with my Forstner bit. It's a 20mm hole. Like I said, it's not quite the right size yet. So I'm going to take my square carbide cutter and I'm just going to start shaping it out and test fitting. For this, I've got my speed turned all the way up on my lathe. Just do light passes. You can always take more away. It's really hard to put more back. Oh, it's close. It's tight right there. I'm gonna bring it out just another maybe 1/2 millimeter and we should be good. So hopefully this pass will get it done. That's it. It's in there. It's comfy. So now I'm going to take this out and we'll glue up the ring core to the ring blank. And also, we're done with this chuck and my spacer block. So that's going to come out. And then I'm going to put in my little pin jaws, whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to find the appropriate size ring mandrel, which that's it. Let's put that in, tighten it up. I always wiggle it like that, push forward, back, up, down. Make sure that it's good and centered. And then once I've got it, just turn it real quick to make sure it's running true. And it is. Alright, so we're going to get started with the glue up. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I was looking at my blank a little bit. And there's a little bit of tear out here on this side from where I pushed the Forstner bit through. That's because my MDF, it's not the cleanest right now. So I need to make a new MDF block spacer for that other chuck. So I'm going to make the top as I set it down to glue. That way the ring blank falls flush down to the bed of the lathe. And this side is perfectly clear. So we'll have two good sides to work with. So what I'm going to do is just take some medium CA glue and glue in this blank. Or glue the blank into the core into the blank. I'm just going to run the CA around inside of the blank first. I don't know if you can see that figure coming out already, but oh, that's going to be pretty. This is usually where I end up getting myself glued to something. Alright, so we're good there. Just going to drop that down. And I keep my handy dandy little screwdriver. You'll see this again here in a bit. Just to make sure everything is seated flat. Then I'm going to hit it with a little bit of activator. Or a lot, I don't know. Both sides. And before it hardens, you'll see there's glue inside. I'm just going to start scraping it out because it's still kind of gummy and easy to work. This helps prevent sanding later on. I could probably coat it with wax or something to have that not happen, but this is easy enough. I also don't want a bunch of glue in there when I put this on the mandrel because I want it to run true. Alright, so that's it. That's gluing it in. Super easy. CA on the inside of the blank, CA on the outside of the core. Hit it with a little bit of activator, and it's in there. And you can kind of see it's flush with the blank on that side, and it's inset a little bit on the blank on that side. And this is the side that has a little bit of tear out. So now I've got a good, once I get it turning, it'll have a good clean side on both. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up to put it up on the mandrel. Alright, so I've got my ring blank glued into my ring core, or vice versa. I've got most of the extra CA glue that got into the middle scraped out, so it'll have a good fit onto my ring mandrel. I'm just going to take the side that's flush and put it towards the headstock. That way I know it's got a good firm seat on the mandrel. Just take my little Allen wrench and give it a little turn. It doesn't have to be super tight. It just needs to not move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spindle gouge, which happens to be hiding from me right now. Apparently my GoPro doesn't want to play nice for me, so we'll go with just this one angle. And get my face mask on because I'm going to just cut it with the corners. Got my spindle gouge here. It was hiding right in front of me. Again, we're still at full speed on the lathe, so I'm just going to get it turned down rough. Once I've got it turned down to a rough circle, I'm going to come back with my square carbide cutter again, and I'm going to do the fine tuning on it. so there it is, turned down rough. I'm gonna get some denatured alcohol and bring out the color in this real quick, because I want to see what exactly I'm working with and where I want to put the inlay, whether I want to center it or bring it off to one of the sides or what. But the denatured alcohol is going to bring out the color in it, so it'll give me a little better idea of what I've got. I can kind of see it now, but I want a clearer picture. So just a little bit of that. It looks like pretty good figure all the way around. So really with this one it doesn't matter where I put the inlay. Oh no, I lied. There's a really neat part right here that kind of goes off about 3/4 of the way through. So I'm going to put my inlay to this side, and I'm going to have the inlay go straight to the edge. Alright, that's the plan. So I'm just going to bring that down a little bit. A lot of times I'll use my thin parting tool if I'm going to do it in the center. It's about 1/16 of an inch, so I can do just a single channel or I can do a double channel. But this time, since it's going to be at the edge, I'm just going to use my square carbide. And just like that, I've got a spot for an inlay. So there's that. Yeah, it's not perfectly centered. If it was, it's either the core's not perfect or the mandrel's not centered. I don't know which. So there's just a little fine piece right there of the burl left. I don't care. It's all gonna get hidden by the opal. So I'm gonna get my opal ready. All right, get that set up. So I've got my Space Titanium crushed opal from the opal dealer. I've never done the inlay on the side. I usually make a channel. So I'm going to see just how interesting this gets. Hopefully not too interesting. What I'm going to do is just pour out some of the crushed titanium or crushed opal in my hand. Just kind of guesstimate. That's probably about enough. I'm not sure. I just set the rest to the side. I've got this piece of wax paper left over from some double-sided sticky stuff, sticky tape, whatever. I keep it underneath because as I'm going to have some of this opal fall, and I want to try and keep as much as I can and reuse it. So I just put a little drop. This is how I do it with the channel too, and then I just sprinkle it on. Once I've got it sprinkled on, I've got a little screwdriver that's been flattened out on my grinder, and I just kind of push it into place. Before I had my carbide tools, I actually flattened off part of that screwdriver, and I was using that to hollow out the ring blanks. Worked out really well. It's just I had to sharpen it a lot. So you don't have to have carbide tools to do this, but it is really helpful. Especially once it comes time to do the final shaping with the inlay in place. I try to keep the opal in the groove as much as I can, because everything up above that groove is just going to get cut away, and I don't like wasting this stuff. It's pretty. So if it gets stuck to my fingers, I just brush it off down onto the paper, and I'll pick it up later. I will say doing this with an actual groove is a lot easier because the glue doesn't move as much. I don't know if you can see it on the video, but it's moving quite a bit. There's nothing to keep it really in place. So I think I'm probably going to have to come back with a second round. Just working our way around. Little drop of glue. And sprinkle. Now it'll start by sitting on top of the glue, but then it'll kind of pull itself down, or the glue will pull it down, and it'll fill up that whole void. Alright, my pile on my hand is getting a little spread out, so I'm just going to dump it out, and I'll come back to it here in a second. I just want to push this into place real quick. Yeah, see right here, I'm going to have to come back. So I'm going to get all the way around, and then I'll come back and do the rest. Alright, that's going to go right back in my hand. And another drop of glue. More sprinkles. And press it in. This is the process. Kind of take your time, push it into place. Make sure you've got everything seated in there good. This is definitely more challenging going at the edge of the ring than it is on a center groove. Because with the center groove, the glue really, it stays in place better. And you've actually got something to keep everything from moving around too much. See, I need more there. stuff's pretty. One more spot right there and I think we're good. I'm going to double check it all though. I just want to make sure that everything has got a good fill and we're not going to have a bunch of voids. Okay. That's it for that part of it. So I'm gonna take my little bag and I'm gonna take my leftovers and I'm gonna pop all that right back into the bag. Like I said, I do not like wasting this opal. It is very pretty. Set that to the side. And now that I've got it all there, I'm just going to hit it with some activator and make sure that it's good and dry. I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes and then we'll turn it down to the final dimension. So I will be right back. Alright, I've let this sit for a few minutes so that the CA glue could dry up real good after I hit it with some activator. I'm usually a lot cleaner about getting these inlays in when I'm doing it in the center, but on the edge I kind of glopped it up on the edge. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back with my round carbide tool. I use carbide for this because I want to make sure it's good, sharp. I'm going to get my final shape over here on the inlay side, and I might thin it out just a little bit more, but I doubt it. So I'm going to take my time, of course, wear my face mask because I don't want an opal chip in the eye. As pretty as it is, I don't want to see it that close. So I'm just going to stop it every now and again and take a look, see where I am with the inlay and the wood. Looks like I need to come down a little bit more here. It's shaping up nice though. If you can't tell by the video, I'm going as fast as my lathe will go, and I'm making very, very light cuts with my carbide tool here to make sure that I'm not just going to tear everything out. So that's kind of my little secret, if you want to call it that, for getting the inlay looking right and getting it carved down quickly. I know a lot of people use a Dremel and grind it down, but I like my carbides for that. Usually I stick mostly to traditional tools when I'm turning other things, but when it comes to these rings and these inlays, it's carbide all the way for me. My face mask is dirty. All right. Alright, so I stopped it just then because I noticed a little dark ring. What that dark ring is super glue that hasn't dried. So I'm just going to hit it with the activator again. So turn my speed down real low. Then I'm going to let it sit for a minute. Haha, you can start to see that grain. That's the grain that I wanted to keep, which is why I put the inlay over here. Can you see that in there? That's pretty. Okay, that should be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my square carbide and I'm going to come into the edge right here, and I'm just going to leave, like on the other side there's about a 1/2 millimeter on the edge, because what I do is I finish it with an epoxy, and I like to have the epoxy right flush with the edge of the stainless steel. I don't like it to come over. That way it's, in my opinion, you know, it's less likely to catch and pull and pull it away. So I'm going to do that. My shape is just about right. I'll clean it up just a little bit more with my square carbide, and I think we're just about done with this one. So speed back all the way up, square tool, right to the edge. Alright, I think that's about it for shaping. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sand at 150, and then I'm going to sand at 220. And that's as far as I'm going to take the sanding. Once I've done that, I'm going to put a coat of tung oil on there, just to bring out the grain. And actually, that's smooth enough. I'm probably just going to go with the 220. So I'm going to slow down the lathe a little bit and just give it a good little quick sand. Alright, that's good and smooth. I only take it to 220 because I use a UV based epoxy that fills in any gaps, and I want to make sure to leave a little bit of a surface there for the epoxy to grab onto. So that's why I only go that far. Plus the epoxy fills in any of the sanding marks, and you know, it really makes everything pop. So right now I'm going to grab my tung oil, and then we'll put the first layer of oil on. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I've got my tung oil. Just get a piece of paper towel. Does not take a lot. A few drops. Then just by hand I'm going to turn the lathe, and let's see what happens with that grain. Oh, that's pretty. All right. That's an Amboyna burl wood ring with space titanium crushed opal from the opal dealer. I wanted to make this ring for a couple reasons. One, I love Amboyna burl, and I've made rings for other people with it. I don't have one yet. This is for me. I also wanted to see what the space titanium would look like once it was inlaid, because you can see the color looks a little bit different once it's actually in there with the glue, and it'll look a little bit different again with the epoxy too. And I'll show the finishing process on this one this time. But you know, I wanted to show this off and, you know, show you how easy it is to do the inlay. And I'll tell you, now that I've started doing the inlays, the popularity of my rings has shot up dramatically. So I'm a huge fan of the crushed opal, and the folks over at the opal dealer really, they do a good job. I've ordered a few times from them. They've always given a little bit of something extra, and it's always consistent. You know, it ships out quick, and it's just a good product. I've enjoyed working with it quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and let this sit in the tung oil for a couple hours. And after it's done that, I'm going to come back and show you how I finish it with the UV epoxy coating. See you then. Alright, so I've got my ring. It sat in tung oil for a while. What I did just now off camera was I cleaned off all the extra oil with some odorless mineral spirits. That way my UV finish will stick a little bit better, and I don't have to worry about that. I've already got my UV bath turned on, because once I get this on, I'm going to want to stick it right in there without having to mess around. I'm going to put a fairly thin coat on here, and I'm just using a little dollar store paintbrush, like for kids crafts. Just going to kind of go around. I want to make sure the groove that I made earlier along the side, if you can see that, there's a gap on either side that doesn't go to the edge of the ring. I want to make sure that gap is filled. That way that wood is sealed in real nice, and there's nothing that's going to catch on the epoxy on the edge. Basically going to do the same thing all the way around on both sides. Just filling in the groove. Really what I'm doing is I'm taking it and I'm pulling to where it'll fill that groove. Just take it around one more time, make sure everything is good. And I'm going to flip it. Do the same thing from the other side. You can see how that epoxy kind of makes everything pop. Really the first go around is just quick, get everything filled in, and then what I'll do is I'll come around and I'll look real close and make sure there's no air bubbles or anything else crazy happening in there. Every once in a while you'll get some hair. You don't want any hair getting cured in there. So that'll get taken care of if I find any of that. But right now I just want to make sure those edges are good and filled in. This stuff is pretty thin, so it'll kind of flow and level itself out for the most part. I just use the reflection of my lights to kind of see how things are going. Yeah, see, there's an air bubble there. The air bubbles have more of a sharp look to them, like right there. And that'll smooth it out. Got a drop here. I get a little bit ridiculous when I start looking at these things because I want to make sure they're just right. Gosh, that Amboyna is pretty. I'm glad I chose to do the inlay at the edge instead of in the middle. That would have cut out a whole bunch of figure. Alright, my edges are good. The centers are good. Oh, no, there's a spot right there. I'm just going to turn it a couple times, kind of slow, to let it even itself out. Look at that figure right there, that's pretty. Oh, so that's that. I'm just going to turn it so I can turn this a little bit. Adjust my camera. And now it's going to go into the UV bath. That's it. It's going to sit for about 15 minutes and it'll be done almost. I'm going to buff it out, but I'm not going to have to take you through all that. But that's how I make a ring with a opal inlay from start to finish. Thanks for watching.